Chapter 36 Shabd-mani in Jamnagar. Observing that his worldly activities were increasing, Gurudev resolved to undergo Shabd-mani upasana of long duration and inform the devotees. Jamnadas made all arrangements for the same in his farmhouse at Jamnagar. On Ram Navami day of 1954, Gurudev left Chitrakoot and reached Jamnagar on Hanuman Jayanti. The farmhouse had a bungalow and a small kutir with 2 rooms and attached toilet with an underground structure. Gurudev chose the simple kutir. There was a hand pump for drawing water from below the ground, and the place was surrounded by a tall boundary wall, which gave him adequate solitude. A small window was provided in the door for emergency use and access. Jamnadas asked, "Bapu, though you will be in samadhi for most of the time, yet at intervals you may choose to interrupt the same. There should be some provisions to sustain and nourish the body." Gurudev replied, "Well, let there be provision of wheat flour for about 15 days. Jamnadas insisted and obtained permission for including some green vegetables also. Gurudev cautioned him that there may be occasions when he may not feel the physical needs like hunger, etc., for 30 to 40 days at a stretch, and not to worry on such occasions. Jamnadas made all arrangements such as cooking, stove, coals, etc., and read out Gurudev's message to the assembled devotees. "Do not be upset by my long absence. Be cheerful and remember that in spirit I will always be with you. Let your time be spent on remembering the name of the Lord." For the first 15 days, Gurudev observed simple maun. Then, on the 5th of May of 1954 at 7:20 am, merely with the words 720 days in the presence of several devotees, he entered the kutir. At the thought of this long separation from their Gurudev, the devotees were prostrate with grief. The condition of devotees was similar to the citizens of Ayodhya during the 14 years of Vanvas of Shri Ram. The devotees spent their time on reading Ramayanji and the 12th chapter of the Gita. Jamnadas visited the farmhouse every day without fail. For seeing to Gurudev's probable needs, he would change old vegetables and put in fresh ones. In the diary that he maintained for the 720-day period, he noted that Gurudev must have attained samadhi state 15 times. Sometimes 39 days and other times 78 days would pass at a stretch without Gurudev lifting any provisions. Thus, for a total of 510 days, Gurudev did not lift any provisions. During the second summer of the Upasana, the underground source of water for the hand pump went dry. Gurudev experienced a lot of difficulties because his vow of Shabd-mani did not envisage communicating with or even seeing another human being. His relation was only to be with God Almighty. Since a tapasvi like Gurudev had undertaken such a difficult and arduous upasana for the benefit of the entire country, Lord Varun, the god of water, performed a miracle, and breaking open the hard flooring of cement tiles, a divine spring appeared for the convenience of Gurudev. When the period of 720 days was nearing completion, a group of 500 devotees started on a padyatra towards Jamnagar. They passed from village after village with Gurudev's photo on a silver chair, and the Brahmins chanted mantras and stanzas and blessings and benediction. Amidst shout of Jai Jaikar, they reached Jamnagar in 5 days' time. Exactly at 7:10 am on 24th of April 1956, as scheduled, Gurudev, with a 2-year growth of silvery beard and glowing personality, the result of 2 years yoga sadhana, gave darshan to all the devotees who were present over there. Jamnadas welcomed the devotees who had come from outside Jamnagar and looked after their comforts. All who had come for darshan offered their devout pranam to the holy spring which had miraculously appeared there for Gurudev's convenience. Each one took a sip by way of a chaman, and some of them filled their bottles with the holy water. Yet the stream remained unexhausted, as though perennial. Haricharandasji had come along with others who had come from Chitrakoot. Gurudev asked, "How come you are here, Haricharan?" He replied and told him all about his duties in charge of the Ram Mandir and ashram at Gondal. Gurudev gave his approval and blessings for success in the management of the ashram. Later, Gurudev visited several villages in Saurashtra before leaving for Chitrakoot with the group of devotees who had taken up the path of sadhana for full time. After finishing the work at Chitrakoot and having entrusted the full responsibility of management to Janardandasji, Gurudev told Haricharandasji, "Haricharan, we must leave now." The puzzled Haricharandasji asked, "Now? It is already nearing the end of the day." Gurudev replied, "Do as I say. You do not know the reason." On the way to the car, he explained, "We are leaving now because at 3 a.m. it will rain heavily and all the culverts and bridges will be washed away and the road will become unpassable. Therefore, we must reach Jhansi before 3 a.m. tomorrow." They reached Jhansi exactly at 3 a.m. and it started raining heavily and as predicted, the roads were flooded with knee-deep water. The next day, on reaching Ujjain, Gurudev sent Haricharandasji to supervise arrangements for Guru Purnima, celebrations to Gondal, and he went elsewhere for solitude. On the appointed day, he reached Gondal and ceremoniously installed the idol of Shri Ram with Pujya, Archana, Arti, etc. After completing all formalities, Gurudev once again went to Jamnagar. Truly, through oft-repeated reflections, one finds sufficient light for prayers. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 37. Gurudev keeps his promise to Sundarma. While Gurudev was undergoing his upasana at Jamnagar, he was in the kutir in front of thousands of devotees, and he had not gone anywhere nor met anybody for 2 years. During the same time period, Sundarbai, mother of Avantibai, Gurudev had accepted as mother and promised to be with in her last moments, was on her deathbed. Suddenly, one day, when he was all the while in reality in Jamnagar, people in Anandpur saw Gurudev alighting from a bus. Though Ramesh Bhai and several other relatives were in the same bus, they could not recognize him due to the growth of beard. He stayed till the very end with Sundarma, keeping her cheerful and contented till she breathed her last. He took part in the performance of her last rites by placing sandalwood on the funeral pyre as promised earlier to Sundarma, as her son. And as ceremonial duty of a son, after performing her last rites, he got his head and beard shaved, as was customary for a son, and departed as if for nowhere. He had warned everybody before leaving Anandpur not to divulge his visit to Anandpur to the Gujrati devotees, since the devotees in Jamnagar got his darshan after conclusion of the Kashtamon Upasana with a 2-year growth of beard, as we saw in the previous chapter. It is no wonder that a Siddha yogi like Gurudev can create a second personality by his knowledge of the basic elements of the universe to please his true devotees. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 38. Saintly lives are for well-being of all. Mathura Das Bhai's wife Valima was suffering from chronic asthma all day round. At times her breathing was so laboured that she appeared on the verge of death. Though blessed with all the worldly things, yet due to her illness she was hardly able to eat anything. Jamnadas Bhai's wife Godavari Bain was pained by Valima's illness and suggested that her suffering should be brought to Gurudev's notice when he next came to Jamnagar. She affirmed that such saints have miraculous powers to cure, and their mere word could work wonders. Valima liked the idea and told Mathura Das Bhai to write a note to Gurudev for a cure for her illness. It was customary among devotees to write such notes to him, who would first keep them under his pillow, then read at leisure carefully, and then after a while tear them off with a smile. Some of the devotees asked for such cures, while others sought solutions for their knotty problems. The devotees believed him to be the Kalpataru, heavenly tree of wish fulfillment in human form. Mathura Das Bhai disagreed and told his wife, "Influence of such divine persons should only be used for our spiritual upliftment, and these personal misfortunes and illnesses are meant to be borne by us with fortitude." Thus disappointed, Valima got her son Bharat to write the note, and Bharat wrote to Gurudev in faltering handwriting and childlike simplicity. "Bapuji, my Ma is suffering from high blood pressure and asthma. Please cure her." During his next visit to Jamnagar, Gurudev had gone to Ganga Gaon along with Mathur Bhai and other devotees. Over there they visited an ashram and temple, offered their pranam and chanted Ram Dhun for a while. Little Bharat happened to be with them, and though he was eager to hand over the note to Gurudev, he felt shy about it. Mathur Bhai said, "Bapu, Bharat wishes to give a note." Gurudev smiled and said, "Let me have it. I was wondering why he has not given the note so far." He accepted the note, took a glance, and tore it off with a smile, and told Bharat, "Now convey my message to your Ma. Tell her your blood pressure and asthma will be no more." On account of his lifelong devotion to truth, and with the blessings thus put into speech, Valima is now perfectly free from all her illnesses and has no restrictions on her diet. Now she is able to undertake car journeys of 500 miles at a stretch along dusty roads without suffering from asthma. From Jamnagar, Pujya went to Rajkot, which was in the grip of an acute scarcity of water due to delayed rains. The yagna done to propitiate the rain gods at Panchnath had not yielded any results. Gurudev ordered a continuous sankirtan of ramanaam, which was promptly undertaken under the leadership of Vallabh Bhai. Within a few hours, torrential rains began, and people were extremely grateful for his divine intervention. However, Gurudev said in all humility, "I have done nothing. Your faith in the Panchanath Yagna performed by the Brahmins has brought on the rains." When the rains continued incessantly for a few days without any break, the worried devotees approached Gurudev with these words, "Bapu, if such heavy rains continue, our routine of Sankirtan will be breached." Gurudev smiled and glancing at Haricharan Dasji replied, "Well, in that case, something will have to be done." Both of them went inside a room and recited some mantras and Hanuman Bahuk. Gradually, the wind swept away the rain clouds. The rains first slackened and then ceased totally. The incident inspires us and reminds us about the infinite grace and benevolence of Gurudev. From Rajkot, Gurudev went to Vartej. via Bhavnagar, and he stayed in Vartej for 2 months, observing solitude and mourn, except for occasional short durations, which he used to come out to give darshan and short discourses to devotees. The planning for the next I camp at Guna was done here. Shri Lalji Bhai of Jamnagar had undertaken to bear all the expenses of the camp. The name of Lalji Bhai's wife was synonymous with the Gujarati name for cornea of the eye, Tara Eye Camp. The Tara Trust till to date conducts regular eye camps. Truly, all things work good for them that love God. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 39. The Guna Eye Camp. For this camp, Dr. Krishna Kumari was to be in charge of management, while Dr. Chabil Bhai was to be the honorary secretary. In the beginning, there were several hitches. Though the date given to the patients was nearing, the villagers who had agreed to volunteer were nowhere in sight, and consequently proper arrangements for the camp could not be completed. Unlike Chitrakoot, where the villagers gave wholehearted cooperation, such enthusiasm seemed to be lacking here. The devotees who had come as volunteers were losing hopes, but Pujya Shri told them, "If we are unable to achieve results before going, we shall have to leave the medicines brought for this purpose in a dry well. But from our side, there should be no lack of efforts and hope." He further added, "Even now I am quite confident that efforts made with faith are bound to succeed." Had he so desired, Gurudev by his siddhis could have procured all sorts of amenities. Yet he wanted to set an example for his devotees, that to serve the poor and the needy with body, mind and intellect, their own efforts were of supreme importance. Through such instances, he wished his devotees to face all obstacles with courage and fortitude. Shri Pragji Bhai used to go to surrounding villages on a cycle and distribute handbills about the proposed eye camp. At times he would lose his way in dense forest, but on chanting Gurudev's name with faith, he would get back on the right path. Occasionally, Gurudev himself used to go to the villages in the car and distribute the handbills and speak to the people, and the driver would stick the handbills on the village walls. Finally, feeling guilty about their inaction, people did come to help, and the camp was built up as scheduled. It was indeed a victory of faith and fortitude over doubt and lethargy. The operations were commenced on the 9th of November 1956, and doctors Joshi, Zaveri and Dave gave their services. It was customary in every eye camp to give a badge to volunteers with Gurudev's photo and date and place of the eye camp to distinguish them from the others. Here Gurudev himself pinned the first badge on Omkar Bhai and made him take an oath of voluntary service whereby he would not hesitate even to clean the toilets of patients. Omkar Bhai honored the promise and with Gurudev's blessings completed all the tasks entrusted to him with success. These included bringing grains, milk, vegetables and other provisions from villages as far as 6 miles away. In the extreme cold of Guna, the volunteers ensured that the patients were properly bedded on coir mattresses, and at times they had to spread additional Hessian cloth over them to keep them warm. Pujya Shri was staying about a furlong away from the camp, and he used to take a round of the camp even in the biting cold at night to supervise all the arrangements. Most of the volunteers had to be accommodated in the tents in the open. They bore the cold and the hardship with patience and fortitude. At night, the patients were served with milk and khichdi in metal bowls, and at times volunteers had to cleanse the vessels after the patients had his meals. Yet they did all their work cheerfully. On certain occasions, some of the ignorant patients would try to take along by stealth a bedspread or a quilt. Every patient had been instructed in advance to leave behind all materials given to them in the camp. However, when misbehavior of some of the patients was brought to Gurudev's notice, he gave strict instructions not to search the departing patient's belongings. On 25th November 1956, the camp concluded with a tally of 1,325 operations. On the last day, Pujya Shri addressed the visitors and volunteers in these words: "All concerned have extended their unstinted and wholehearted cooperation. Many have come to serve in the camp from faraway places, and I hope that the local people will continue to cooperate with them. When man truly becomes human, good inclination is bound to elevate his conscience. Always remember that one who does not work for alleviation of sufferings of others is not fit to be called a human being." Chitar Mulji, a merchant of Guna, had served wholeheartedly in the camp. Someone told Gurudev that Chitar Mulji had no issue. Now, with Pujya Shri's blessings, his house resounds with the patter of children's feet. Truly, with man this is impossible, but with God all things are possible. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 40. Miracles of Ramanaam. After the Guna camp, Gurudev started for Anantpur by car with Thakur Bhai, who was driving. The visibility was poor due to darkness and the road was dusty. Gurudev told Thakur Bhai to follow the red tail light of the truck that was ahead of them, and drive carefully. It so happened that absent-mindedly Thakur Bhai did not realize that the truck with the red warning lamp had already gone elsewhere, and he was mistakenly driving towards the red lamp put on the road as a stop signal and diversion. When he realized his mistake and saw the danger signal, his hands flew up from the steering wheel involuntarily with the words, "Hey Ram," because there was no time left to apply the brakes and stop the car. Suddenly, as if on its own, the car's steering wheel turned left and the vehicle veered towards the diversion road and came to a sudden halt with a thud. Pujya Shri got down, examined all the wheels and told Thakur Bhai, "Nothing has happened. Let us drive ahead." Thakur Bhai, who was still in shock, asked, "How did the steering wheel turn on its own towards the left and on the diversion?" Gurudev replied with a smile, "You uttered the name of Ram. He came to our rescue and turned the steering. Let us first get over the Kucha diversion and on the main road. You better drive slowly behind me while I will walk ahead of you till we get back on the main road." With trembling heart, Thakur Bhai did as instructed. However, on the main road his visibility was further impaired by thick fog that enveloped the car. Amidst this fog and darkness, Thakur Bhai drove up to Anantpur, all the while praying mentally to Gurudev for their safe journey. After staying for a few days in Anantpur, they started on their onward journey to Pushkar. Once again, problems arose. Both the horn and the brakes of the car became defective. Thakur Bhai, in his simple way, told Gurudev, "We cannot drive with such a defective vehicle. It is unlawful and the police may arrest me." Gurudev told him confidently, "Do not worry, drive on as I instruct." On the road to Pushkar, when we reached the incline on the road, stop feeding petrol to the car engine and keep on driving slowly. Thus they reached Pushkar without brake or horn. This incident demonstrates to us how the benign grace of God descends on saintly Mahatmas like Gurudev to perform such miracles. In his infinite kindness, God saves and protects His true devotees so that people like us can understand the true value of His greatness and devotion unto Him. Thakur Bhai, who experienced all this firsthand, was indeed overcome with divine pleasure and thankfulness. Truly, the effectual fervent prayers of a righteous man availeth much. Jai Bhagwan. Chapter 41. Benign Grace on Former Wrongdoers. A Banya youth of Bombay, during an insane fit of rage, became instrumental in killing his wife. For this grave offence, he was arrested by the police, and despite all the efforts of his father, who was a well-known and able lawyer, he was sentenced to life imprisonment. The father happened to be a close relative of Keshubhai, one of Gurudev's devotees, and knowing Keshubhai's firm faith and devotion unto Gurudev, he approached Keshubhai and said, "If Bapu bestows his grace on my unfortunate son, his life can be saved from ruin." When Gurudev next visited Bombay, at an appropriate time Keshubhai narrated the whole story and said, "Bapu, with your kind intercession, the youth can be saved." In a firm voice, Gurudev replied, "Whatever has happened so far is for the good, and whatever happens next will also be for the good." After some time, when Keshubhai reminded him of the matter, Gurudev asked, "How many years' sentence is pronounced by the court?" When he was told 20 years, he asked, "Since how many months has the youth been in jail?" The reply was given, 5 months. After some thought, Gurudev said, "The years can be made into mere months. The youth lacks any meritorious act to redeem this grave act, but he will be released after another 15 months. He added, "He can be released even now, but to atone for his heinous act, he will not be able to eat even one grain of food during the rest of his life." Keshubhai talked to the youth's family. The father could not believe that his son could get off so lightly with only 15 months. Yet, using his legal skills, he appealed to the High Court. When Keshubhai went to the Guna eye camp, Gurudev asked him, "The appeal is pending before the High Court, and you are here?" Keshubhai asked him with humility, "If you so order, I can return by next train." Gurudev said, "No need for that. Since you are already here, be of service to the poor and the needy, and the God will do the rest." Before High Court's official verdict was known, Gurudev said, "The High Court has confirmed the Sessions Court's decision." Keshubhai was astonished, but merely said, "All that is for you to take care of, Bapu. I have confidence in your words that the youth will be released after 15 months. Gurudev reaffirmed his earlier words, "Of course, God is merciful." After a few days, the High Court's official verdict confirmed what Gurudev had already said. And now the only resort was an appeal to the Supreme Court. When Keshubhai was returning to Bombay from Guna, Gurudev told him, "Do not worry. Leave everything to the mercy of Shri Ram." Another 4 months passed, and the parents brought the boy home on parole, pending appeal. When Keshubhai informed Gurudev about this, he said, "If he is kept out on parole, that many number of days will be added to his 15 months of imprisonment." The boy was on parole for 45 days. At last, the 3-judge bench of the Supreme Court opined, "Due to lack of sufficient evidence, we believe the youth to be not guilty and order his release." After undergoing imprisonment for 15 months plus 45 days on parole, the youth returned home, neither a day less nor a day more. The parents took the youth to Gurudev for darshan, and after prostrating themselves at his feet, they wept tears of gratitude. Gurudev told the youth, this much imprisonment was a must, otherwise a greater harm would have befallen you. Now go and enjoy yourself, but live strictly as per the dictates of religion. Be kind to all, and remember, one may escape the clutches of the law, but one can never escape the retribution of the Lord's court. Have fear of God and start your life afresh. Keshubhai said, Bapu, by your grace alone, the boy has regained his freedom and come for your darshan alone. Gurudev replied with humility, I have done nothing. It was a result of your faith and firm resolve. This was Gurudev's standard reply whenever any devotee got any difficult task accomplished by his grace and blessings. Truly, one on whom mere grace of God descends may get riches or fulfillment of mere wishes, but one whom God considers his own, to him alone he gives such saintly humility. Pujya Shri never for a moment relinquished this divine quality of humility. As though he said, If thou worshippeth the Lord, though your sins be as scarlet, they will be as white as the driven snow. Jai Bhagwan. Sarve Sukhina Santu, Sarve Santu Niramaya, Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu, Ma Kaschit Dukham Apnuyat.